Of the night, Celtics Warriors game 2. Take you to Jason Tatum walking in with a Jordan shirt looking fly. Steph Curry saying, I got to stop him. Late first quarter, Tatum right over Steph with a 3. 21 first half points. But in the final seconds of the quarter, it's Steph driving inside and scoring, making it happen. Golden State up 1 after 1. Second quarter, Steph gets it right from Tatum. Going the other way, Curry's going to pull up and hit the 3. He was on it last night, JJ.
Oh, he scored in a variety of ways. There in transition, killing it in the pick and roll, was even great in isolation, which isn't a surprise because he's been great in isolation all season.
And then look at that moment. Draymond Green, Jaylen Brown getting into it right there. Draymond had a tech earlier, but didn't get a tech right there. Celtics up 2 heading into the break, and then up 5 in the third. This is where Curry really went to work, right there on Al Horford, JJ.
Well, all of his threes, CJ said this in the first hour, all of his threes are momentum threes, especially at home. You saw the one there in isolation off the switch against Horford. Then he hits one against drop coverage, and then he gets a heat check against drop coverage. Daniel Tice all the way back, not even above the three-point line. Great screen there to get Curry open. And here Jordan Poole with the end of quarter heave.
Unbelievable.
This is like a little Curry magic in there,
Oh,
right?
Man. It's like that's a C.J. McCollum shot right there. Nailing it from 39 out.
I don't have that type of range.
Warriors winning a blowout 107-88. And afterwards, Draymond Green talking about the power of Steph.
Our offense is always a lot of Steph. It all starts with Steph. Whether, when KD was here, our offense still started with Steph. And, that's the way it's going to be.
You like that? When KD was here, our offense still went around Steph. Always throwing it in. Steph Curry, the 5th player over the last 25 years to score twice as many points as the next closest teammate through the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. Look at the company he's in. LeBron James, AI, Shaq, and Tim Duncan. Just amazing what he's doing. Let's bring the guys back in and bring in Brian Windhorst, who's with us now. And Brian, you were at the game. So what stood out to you?
Yeah, Ryan, I don't think maybe we pay enough attention to how really poor the performance was by both Steve Kerr and Draymond Green in Game 1. They were off their games, but they both completely brought it in Game 2. Kerr made 3 big game plan changes. 1, he took Andre Iguodala out of the rotation, which had to hurt, but it was absolutely the correct thing to do, and put in Gary Payton II. 2, he switched up his defensive strategy to start the game. He put Draymond on Jaylen Brown, and he put Klay Thompson on Al Horford, who really hurt them getting loose for 3-pointers in Game 1. And then when he put Jordan Poole out there, he put him out there with better spacers on the court. He gave Jordan a better chance to be successful. All 3 of those things hit. Al Horford didn't even get a 3-point shot off in this game, although there were a number of guys on him. And Draymond completely came out with a different mindset. He was lazy in his closeouts. He was not aggressive on defense in Game 1. He didn't respect the Celtics players. He made it very clear from the start he was going to set the tone for them defensively, and that was a big difference maker in the way Game 2 played out.
It doesn't really show up in the stat sheet in the way you expect, JJ, 9 points, 7 assists. But this guy, Draymond, he in many ways was the star of the game. And you saw the Warriors do, I think, what they do better than almost any team, which is make adjustments after a big loss.
Well, I think Draymond Green last night was the instigator for the Warriors. He mucked up the game time and time again. We saw it from the opening play. Off of the jump ball, Al Horford catches the ball at the top of the key. Draymond forces a jump ball. He made these type of plays over and over again. And we talked about this earlier. Draymond is in their head. Like, think about all the attention, all the talk in huddles, every dead ball. Draymond's yapping, Draymond's yapping, Draymond's yapping. It is a little bit of a distraction. It's not a distraction to Draymond. That's who he is. That's where he's comfortable. And I thought last night he just starred in that role.
Yeah, CJ, how much of a distraction can that be on the court?
I think it can certainly be a distraction if you're not accustomed to it, you're not used to it, and especially when the team is kicking your butt, like the way the Warriors have kind of controlled the game. Quarters 1 through 3, they've controlled the game in both series. Obviously, last night they closed them out in the 4th. But outside of that 4th quarter in Game 1, the Warriors have been the better team. They looked more composed. They looked more like a championship contender. But the Celtics stole that first game, and I think Draymond understood the severity of it. He also understands he's the only player in that team that really talks trash. Steph dances, Klay does the Game 6 chants, Poole kind of talks a little bit after he scores. But Draymond is the constant force of communication, good or bad.
Good or bad. I love how you add that in. it. So, Wendy, the other side of this is, and I think a lot of people are talking about it, we've talked about it, Klay Thompson did not have a good night. Not even close. What's the level of concern with Klay?
Yeah, I think it's mild to moderate. I mean, if you watch the game in the second half, especially the third quarter where they got separation, the Warriors went away from the standard offense where they sort of moved the ball, and they went to straight high pick and roll with Steph. They basically really tried to ride that hot hand. That is obviously a devastating attack, but it is easier to defend in the aggregate than the Warriors' great ball movement. And I think they did that because they were a little bit worried about what Klay was giving them. He was, I think, started the game 1 of 10. And then you saw Steve Kerr leave Klay in all the way till late in the game, trying to run stuff for him to get him into some sort of rhythm. That was an indication that they're a little bit worried about it. But I will just point out that in the closeout game against the Mavericks just 10 days ago, he did have a 32-point game. It's not like he's in a bad slump. He will rebound. But I do think they're going to need Klay. They can't just ride Steph on straight pick and roll because the Celtics will be able to defend that more effectively.
Yeah, it's a great point. And CJ, I think what people think when they think of Klay was for all those years before the injuries, he was just so consistent. He was just this guy that you always had to watch for. And now the performance just seems so up and down from game to game. What's your level of concern with him?
I'm not really concerned. I think you look at what he's gone through from a rehab standpoint, from an emotional standpoint of having to watch the way he was hurt, almost coming back and getting injured again. It's normal. I've gone through injuries, and the biggest hurdle sometimes isn't only physical, but it's mental. Figuring out, how to get back to my spots again. How do I get the pop, the lift? There's not a lot of days in between games right now, and he's had to go through a long playoff series in which he's having to play defense. He's guarding a bigger defender. He's leaning on Horford. Horford's leaning on him all night, with the rotation changes, and I think all that is taking a toll on him. But Klay has irrational confidence. Like JJ has it, I have it. And I think the good thing about him is that 1 for 10 or 10 for 10, he shoots the next one. He shoots number 11 as if he just made 5 in a row. And I think that's why you've seen him score 32 points in the last series, and that's why you'll see him score 30 again in this series.
Wow. I like that, irrational confidence. I'm the only person on set who doesn't have irrational confidence, sadly. So look, JJ, with Klay playing like this, is there a level of concern for Steph? Because this offense has been a multi-headed monster for so many years, and now one of your greatest weapons is not all there.
Well, look, the Warriors are at their best when they're getting contributions from not just Klay, but all of their role players. And so Andrew Wiggins is going to have to play well. Jordan Poole is going to have to play well. But let's not act like Steph Curry isn't the center of their universe at all times. And people talk about Steph Curry in this system. Steph Curry is the system. Their entire offense is built around him. I actually love the adjustment they made last night. They had so much success in game 1 playing high pick and rolls against drop coverage, and they just went to it again and again in that third quarter, and that's what really got their offense going.
Yeah, Wendy, I want to talk about this Steph thing a little bit more because, CJ, you mentioned this really great point that other than the fourth quarter in game 1, the Warriors have really, I guess, been in the driver's seat, right, of this series. So, Wendy, does this mean that given the Warriors, given what they've been through, their history, how dominant they've been, are they now in a little bit of the driver's seat at this point?
I mean, I could spin that right around and say that the first half of the first 2 games, both teams have been up by 2 points. The first halves have been played even. In the fourth quarter, the Celtics had one great fourth quarter and one bad fourth quarter. I could spin it around and say that the rest of the game is even except for the third quarter, which is where the Warriors have outscored the Celtics. And you better brace yourself if you're a Celtics fan when I'm about to give you this number. The Warriors have outscored the Celtics by 35 points in the 2 third quarters in this series. I would say that is where the game has changed. And, I heard CJ talking about this earlier. I obviously have talked to the Celtics players about this. I say, why? You don't think Ime Udoka brought it up at halftime? Let's prepare ourselves for this third quarter onslaught. You don't think CJ's coaches over the years when he was with the Blazers and they kept playing him didn't bring it up? They brought it up, but the Warriors have this thing that they just are able to do. And, bottom line, the Celtics have some issues, turnover issues, getting continuity from some of their stars. But if they don't fix the third quarter, they ain't going to win. And so that's got to be a big factor. I think the rest of the series, frankly, has been played even except for that period.
Yeah, that graphic is so powerful. But I want us to put that third quarter graphic back up so people can really let it marinate. JJ, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think one of the reasons that the Warriors are always so good in the third quarter is because Steph gets on his phone at halftime and reads the Twitter comments, and he looks for motivation that way. It's true. I'm dead serious.
I'm not going to lie. I've checked my phone at halftime since I was in high school. My brother texts me.
Are you serious?
My brother texts me feedback. I get pick and roll coverages, clips. I don't go on Twitter, but I have heard Steph has gone on Twitter a few times, and I think I've said it before. He hasn't won a Finals MVP yet. Mm-hmm. He's heard people talk about it, and whether or not he wants to admit it, he's showing why he's going to deserve a Finals MVP.
So he wants it. Wait, do you change your game up after reading those texts and seeing that stuff at halftime?
I make
you kind of like, ooh.
I make adjustments to how I'm playing based on coverages, based on how generally teams send me right, obviously, so figuring out how to get back to my left hand. It's the little things that you may not see that someone else is seeing for you.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, folks, so if you want CJ to get going after halftime, his number is 86. No, I'm joking.
330 area code.
Okay, you figure the rest out.
Same.
All right.
Same. Attaboy. 330.